Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Just come on in and get cozy.
There's another chair here and another chair
Yep,
here.
and there's room. We can scooch over, just cuddle up, whatever it is we need to do. I'm just gonna kind of introduce myself and just a little bit about what we are and are not going to try and get done tonight, and then we'll get started. I'm Limina Harmon. I am both the pastor of New Connections Methodist Church on Main Street and until the end of December, your Ulster County Legislator here in the village of New Paltz. I have a strong background in doing anti-racism work, which I've done professionally here, have done for many, many years prior to being here, and that is why I am the one standing in front of you this evening. So the impetus for this event was the terrible vandalization of our friend, our colleague, our neighbor, Essie Lewis's home that included threats to her daughter. And after our town board meeting where people spoke about what we needed to do for Essie and what the implications of all of this are for our community, it became clear that we have a lot of work left to do, which, honestly just makes us humans in America, right? That we have a lot of work left to do just makes us humans in America. And anti-racism work is like brushing your teeth. You keep doing it because you're gonna get a little more racism stuck in there. Like it's gonna happen. It's happening. So I think that that's really important to say. This is not a blame session. This is not a finger pointing session. This is also, I want to be really clear, we are not going to spend the night coming up with what we can do as a community to support Essie. That work is being done by other people, and quite frankly, I want that work being done by people who know how to stay in their lane, right? And we don't all know how to stay in our lane, so we're going to leave that to people who know how to do that. That's not what we're doing here tonight. Though I have been informed that there is a matching grant being made available for the Margaret Wade Lewis Center. So if we as a community can raise $50,000, another $50,000 will go to the Margaret Wade Lewis Center. So that is a goal that we can all go ahead and get to work on, and that's pretty incredible. So there's your tangible thing that you can do in that regard.
At least one or two people did say they wanted to put together a reward for information to capture the perpetrators. And I have information here if someone wants to jump on it, because it cannot be done by a municipality, it's illegal. And the Ulster County Sheriff's Department does not do that. So I have, if someone wants to talk to me and talk about spearheading it, I have information that I can share.
Thank you, Stana. I want to also just acknowledge we've got a whole bunch of community leaders in the room tonight. But Maud Bruce, the president of the NAACP in Ellenville, and some of her chapter members have made their way over the ridge to be with us this evening. And so I just want to say thank you to them for that. And hopefully we can begin and then continue conversation as well. All of the rest of you who do amazing community work, paid, unpaid, noticed or unnoticed, I'm not going to take the time to name you because
We don't have time.
we don't have time. Sound good? Okay, so what we are going to do this evening is first we are going to define some terms, because if we're not saying the same words and meaning the same thing when we say them, we're not going to have a very productive conversation, right? So we're going to do just a little bit of basic glossary work. Then we're going to name the problem as it happens here locally, right? This will be interactive. And then we will talk about the ramifications of our community racism experience, right? We'll name what's happening, why is this problem so bad? And then we will wrap up with what our next steps and possible solution-oriented action items might be, okay? Okay, so I wanted to find a good glossary. There are many of them. Some of them are really extensive. Some of them are really too short. I like this one because it isn't so much a glossary as it is also a roadmap. But this does not all pertain to us. This is a UK-based model, but I couldn't find one that was as visually helpful as this one. So we're not going to go through everything on here, but I would just invite you to notice that there's a movement happening, right? It's stackable, as it were. So, what is a racist? Or what is racism? That's okay. We'll let the chart tell us, right? Racist tends to be used to describe someone with bad intentions who commits an overt act of racial prejudice. What's wrong with that as a stopping point for that definition?
Racism can be passive, such as how the bridges leading into Long Island were made too short for buses from the city.
I thought that was active, but I'm just.
that was active. But the experience that many people had of it was, right, they didn't realize that they were participating in systemic racism, right? Because racism is the broth we as an American culture swim in, right? We're all steeped in it. We're all stewing in it. It's bubbling. It's around us. It's infusing us, regardless of who we are, because we are humans in America, right? So when we talk about a racist, and this is how you get like, I'm not a racist. Okay, but you're here. You're in the broth, right? So yes, and it's because it is a systemic issue. It's not about, the most problematic forms of racism are not about any one racist person. They're the system. Let's move on.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. No, that's fine, it's fine. We're going to race. I like the visual, that's all. Okay, so racism, race. What is the connection? What is race?
It's just a cultural construct. It's not real.
It's not real. It is a social construct, right? It's this idea that we've all bought into. I would argue it's not unlike the idea of money. Who decided that pretty green paper means anything? I don't know, but we're all right. We all just agree that this is how we're going to work together, and a dollar is a dollar. Until somebody questions what it means, and then we realize that maybe we don't know, right? So that's race. We're not going deep here. We're going quick. We already did that. Let's.
Privilege?
Do we know what privilege is?
Yeah.
Right? So privilege is the ability to drive under those bridges and not have any idea that they are problematic, right? Privilege isn't that all the sorts of wonderful things were given to you, because maybe no good thing was given to you, right? But you also didn't have a 30-pound backpack and landmines everywhere in front of you, right? That's privilege. It would be great to go deep. We're not doing that. No, we're gonna skip that. That's very UK based. That's part of why I want to. We're gonna skip that. Let's stop at whiteness for a moment. Do you have to be a white person to display whiteness?
No.
How not and why not?
Well, even our concept of whiteness has changed. You think about immigrants coming here in the 1800s, and a lot of them were not considered white.
Right, right. And as a parenthetical note, whiteness has to expand to be dominant, right? because the global majority is the global majority. So the only way whiteness can stay a dominant power is by invitation, right? So if you've noticed on forms you fill out, there's now Hispanic, non-Latino, right? There's all these that's whiteness expanding itself. That's what we're watching happen in real time with those forms. But, whiteness is this idea that to be white is to be better, to have access to better things, to get the privilege, right? All of that is part of whiteness. And you do not have to be white to have whiteness, to display whiteness, to use whiteness. White fragility, we're not even going to click on it. In fact, we don't really need to click on any of these. We can just kind of follow along. So, white fragility.
Fragile like a bomb, not like a doll.
There you go.
Love it. I'll say it for the peanut gallery,
Say
right?
it again, Julie.
Fragile like a bomb, not like a doll.
Yeah.
Okay? Right? It's
Fragile like a bomb, not like
yeah.
a
So
doll.
right, it's this idea that to have your whiteness pointed out to you is to no.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a racist. Right? And so you see how that just shuts down the conversation. And if people of color are strong enough to experience life in America as people of color, white people are strong enough to hear it. Prejudice, we know what that is. We're gonna just for argument's sake, we're gonna stop quickly on reverse racism. What is that?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. Thank you. That is no. That is no. Why?
Power
It's just an
dynamic.
arm of white fragility.
Right. Exactly. Right. So somebody can be prejudiced against you, right? Like, oh Lord, here comes the Karens. Right? That's prejudice. No two ways about it. But it's not reverse racism because the power dynamic doesn't back up your prejudice. Moving on. Let's do intersectionality.
Should I click on it?
No, you don't even need to click on it. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I know, right? So what is intersectionality? It's okay.
Where things meet, where different groups, based on your sexual orientation or your presentation or your politics or whatever group that you're in, where these things meet and where you can experience similar issues.
Right.
It's also the idea that we're connected.
Yes.
That's right.
Right.
One versus the press, we're all have oppression.
Well, and
Women
right.
and the Jews.
Right. And none of us are like a monolithic entity, right? So
I just want to also throw in there, it was coined by a black woman
Yes.
to describe her experience of racism and
Yes.
sexism in her life.
right.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes. Very much so. Right. So I am a light brown, hyper educated woman who spent most of my mothering years as a single mother, right? All of these things go into who I am and where all of these social constructs intersect in my life and in my lived experience. That's intersectionality. In case it wasn't messy enough, if we were all just nice, neat, monolithic identities trying to figure out how to be together, it's way messier than that. I think that's good for now. So now we've got some working definitions that we can share. Are there questions about those? Any glossary terms that you think we really just have to have in the room before we go on?
I would suggest we use the term, forgive me. Rather than racism, white supremacy. White supremacy is mass incarceration. White supremacy is ICE and anti-immigrant rhetoric and policies. It's Zionism, if we study the origins of Zionism. White supremacy explains the structural aspect of racism.
Thank you, Tim. Absolutely true, right? So we're
there now.
pardon me?
And we're there now.
We are there.
Well, it's not just ice, excuse me, I have to say this, it's not just ice and the dramatic shit that we see. It's in the daily structural
Yes.
racism that we live. And
Yes.
If we think it's just the dramatic stuff, we're
Right.
missing
Yes.
the continued
Yes.
structural racism.
Yes.
Yes. Structural racism is
And
white supremacy, white
they're
supremacy,
always-
right? Like, right, they are inevitably interconnected, yes. Any other terms or,
Yeah, just to like go further into intersectionality, that was coined by this lawyer who was reviewing this legal case where this black woman was denied employment at a car manufacturing plant, and the argument made was, well, we hire black people and we hire women. We hire black men to maintain the machines, we hire white women in the secretarial pool. The judge who heard that case said, well, no racism or sexism, look. And it, like when you were talking about your own experience of intersectionality, there are structures and systems which are made to support certain people. And as you deviate from being that certain person, difficulty compounds.
absolutely, and expense, right? So like, if you've ever gone to get your hair done, ladies,
It costs a little more.
you paid the pink tax,
Yes.
right? If you're a black woman and you've ever gone to get your hair done, you've paid the pink tax and you paid the black tax. And they do compound, there's compounding interest there, right? So there is an economic component to some of that, to much of that intersectionality as well. Any other terms we just have to have in the room before we move on? We can always go back to it, I just wanna, okay. So,
We have one hand that went up right
oh, sorry.
Implicit bias.
So, implicit bias is, I kind of think about it as we're all in the soup, right? So, you have the bias, you don't have to know you have the bias to have the bias. You don't have to know you have the bias to act upon the bias, right? It's just there. It's how we were all carefully taught to be wired, and so we have to fix our wiring. No small task. Okay, let's move on to the problem as we are experiencing it here. So clearly the problem is racism. So if I say what's the problem, we've already covered that racism is at least part of the answer to that. And this is where I'd like to start getting a little more interactive. So we heard some of the problem named at the town board meeting. So I'm just going to throw out a couple of the things that we heard there, and then we'll move on. We'll build on that. Black people leave New Paltz, right? Yeah. Black. I mean, it doesn't. It is a statement of fact that is not necessarily obvious, right? Black people leave New Paltz, and Black people have left New Paltz for a very, very long time. Pencil Hill. Right? And that's part of why the work of the Margaret Wade Lewis Center is so incredibly important, is because it reveals where Black people have been, have not been, were, and then were not, and are represented in the ground upon which we walk, right?
Can I also say something real quick? So that was important for me when Albert Cook shared that evening. It put a lot of different things in a bigger context, but I had just 2 weeks prior, my name is Anthony Daniels, I teach in the Black Studies Department over at SUNY New Paltz. 2 weeks prior to that, I sent out a fax staff to everybody in the university speaking about how I've been there since 2018. Since 2018, the entire department has rolled over in terms of faculty, full-time faculty members. So I'm 8 years in now, and I'm the longest full-time faculty member now. Departments aren't supposed to roll over like that.
No.
Black folk coming in, they getting out. So this is a cultural issue that includes this institution over here and the town.
Absolutely, thank you, right, because we need the data sets. Well, we're going there. We are definitely going there, right? That has implications for all of our lives together, right? And New Paltz has historically spent a lot of time hiding from its own complicated racial past. Like renaming the dorms on campus, right? It's just one, yep.
Can you just quickly explain what we meant when we spoke about Pencil Hill?
Yeah, so Pencil Hill, which is sort of behind Water Street Market, that's Pencil Hill.
It goes up the south side.
Right. Was historically a black neighborhood built by black folks at a time when that was not a desirable place to be, close to the river and the train tracks. So it was built again. If my understanding is correct, it was built 3 times before, right? Even Jesus didn't have to come back 3 times. Like, I get it. Sorry, I'm code switching. I'm using all of my hats. So there we go. There's another term. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Pencil Hill.
Yeah, there was a church there that was burned down 3 different times.
Oh, okay, I wasn't following, okay, so.
3 times. So there was a church that was built on top of Pencil Hill. It was a black church. Was it AME?
Amy Zion.
Amy
Zion.
Zion.
And it was burnt down, and they rebuilt it, and it was burnt down again, they rebuilt it, and it was burnt down again.
Yeah. And there's hazy history on it. There's disagreement about it. So like that's part of why I didn't like I don't want to because no, it's okay. I mean that might even be true is problematic, right? Like the details of that are somewhat hazy. I'm inclined to think when a black church burns down.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably wasn't the wiring.
Probably wasn't the wiring before there was wiring. So like right. I don't know. But you know, to keep to the facts, right? And you know, New Paltz is uncomfortable with the fact that we have a history as a slave-owning community. Right? I would argue that even our monument to that fact on Huguenot Street. Anybody want to describe the monument?
Big giant rock.
With a chain?
Chain link.
Yes.
Okay.
What? What does that even mean, right? So it's a very,
You talking
very.
about the African American burial ground bench with the chain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Right.
that's weird.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, that's weird. I couldn't understand what I was looking at when I got here. That took a while, but I see a hand in the back.
Yeah, I had worked on that, with other people in the community. We raised money in the community, for the bench, which was done locally. And then we had previously raised money for the historic sign, which we put in there. And for about 15 or 16 years, we did commemoratives every single, February and March for that. The grave site, as far as we were able to identify, most of it is in the property adjacent to it where there is a house set way back. And we, without getting into expensive, digging up land and stuff, which we're not gonna do.
Right.
It seemed like the reason the house was set back was because the builders, that whole string of houses along there are relatively new. And that whole string of houses was put in, and we think that bones were found, and they were denied.
Right. Almost certainly. Almost certainly.
The bench was put where it was because the people who owned that property were very kind to allow us to
Right.
put the markers and the bench there. And
The-
the
so-
chain, on the bench definitely represents enslavement. And it was a very big deal. We worked on that for, a few years.
Absolutely. And I don't want to disparage the work that went into it at all, right? Because
The chain
that,
is partially broken.
because the work is good, right? Like, we're not gonna try and litigate that. That is
I
not,
just wanna throw in a few more glossary words. Impact versus intent.
thank you.
Yes.
Right? So the intention is good. We want to commemorate this thing. It's a really important part of our history. How that's received can be very different. Right? So like, if I drive my car through the front of your house, but I was trying to get to the 7-Eleven, my intention was to go to 7-Eleven. Do you care? Right? 'Cause you have no living room now. Oopsie doesn't do it, right? So intention and outcome are not always the same. And we learn and we grow and we adapt over time. So we have a complicated history with, a complicated understanding of our history with enslavement. We know that Black people leave New Paltz again and again and again. And there's a lot of whitewashing, right? So I'll give just one example of how this community has whitewashed. In our church, there was what seemed to be a tombstone in the attic. Why would there be a tombstone in the attic? Nobody knew. I was like, what is this thing and why is it, this feels weird. Somebody explain this to me. Nobody could explain the tombstone in the attic. And then through a long and circuitous route that I'm not even going to try to go into because we don't have time for that, it turned out it's not a tombstone, it's a commemorative plaque to Fulton and Jane Cox. The Coxes were a Black couple in New Paltz. They were a power couple. They got a tremendous amount of stuff done. And they donated money to both what is now the United Methodist Church, was then the Methodist Episcopal Church, and to the AME Zion Church. The synagogue is now where the Methodist Episcopal Church was. The Methodist Episcopal Church was able to move largely based upon the money from the Coxes. Right? It was such a big deal that there was Fulton Cox Day for years. Years. And then, at some point, nobody's sure when, twist my arm and make me guess, I'm going to tell you it was the 1930s. Right? That plaque disappears, Fulton Cox Day ends, and minstrel shows become the fundraising, right? Whitewashing. Nobody knew who he was, nobody knows anything about it, poof, gone, nothing to see here. So those were, I wanted to kind of point those out. And also, I just have to say that we heard at that town board meeting, people of color do not feel safe in New Paltz. From kids to adults, we heard from a lot of people. I've heard from white people. People of color do not feel safe in New Paltz. Sana, this is the point at which I'm going to ask for your help. Are there other ways to name the problem that we just want to have in the room?
Systems of racism and white supremacy all over the place.
We're going to try and keep it mostly New Paltz focused at the moment, right? Or even if we say Ulster County, right? Because we're porous, and some of those will be national, and some, right? We're porous.
Reverend Farnes, can you give an example of what would be specific?
A problem as any of you see it, right? Like, here's how racism manifests itself in New Paltz, in our community.
People cannot afford housing in New Paltz.
Affordability.
Yeah.
White people in power,
I'm a bad speller.
I'm sorry,
white people in power?
white people in power, that there's not a lot of diversity in our leadership. Yeah, the people of color who have been on the school board are not anymore.
Or on the police force.
or on the police force. They are not anymore, right? So yes, a lack of representation in power.
They're also being eliminated from the school district, mostly black administrators, and we have to deal with lawsuits against the school district that we as taxpayers will be paying. The racism also manifests itself by black students walking around the street and having people throw things at them and making comments. And it manifests itself in many different ways in New Paltz and probably other places too. But I think that it's really important that we talk about what we can do as a community to try to safeguard,
Yes.
you know, our immigrant neighbors that are afraid to come out and send their children to school, and also our black neighbors
Yes.
that are actually being forced out of New Paltz
Yes.
through acts of racism.
Yes. So the schools have. I'll give me 1 second, Amanda. Schools have come up a couple of times, and we must talk more about the schools. So I want to get a little more granular as we move from the problem to the ramifications of the problem. I'm not talking about it. I'm just placing it. But yes, we are losing teachers of color. We're losing students of color. We're losing people. Black people leave New Paltz.
We're losing the black police officers, where did they go?
Correct. Right? Exactly.
We have a flag march down the center of town some years back.
That was a fun day. Yes, and we'll go back to that because Amanda had her hand up. Go for it.
Segregation. It's social, it's economic, it's.
Yes. Yeah, our community is a segregated community, right? Yeah, so show of hands, how many people remember the flag march? So it was like welcome to New Paltz. I had just moved here, so that was exciting.
Yikes.
That was exciting. Yeah, I got here like July 1st, and that was October. I think it was October. So yeah, that was a good time. Yeah, it was a flag march to celebrate the flag when the mural of the American flag went up again by the middle school, right? And yeah, and it was a white supremacist rally. Yeah, when people are screaming racial epithets at me, and a colleague kept me from being beaten on the head with a flagpole. I'm gonna go with that's a white supremacist rally. That feels like a good way to define that.
What year was that?
2018. 2018. And just parenthetically, right, in the midst of that day, while it's happening, people are going, "You're not from here, get out of here." And the people are saying, "I went to the middle school. I went to Dezeen. I went..."
They're claiming it.
Right. Right? That was surreal. As everybody's going, no, you're not from here. And they wouldn't stop saying it. It was a very surreal moment. Okay, other things we want to just list in our problem. We can always go back and add later.
I would say racial profiling, so that people who look a certain way are stopped more often, questioned more often, etc.
Yes.
So that goes on within our community.
It absolutely
In
does.
stores as well as police staff.
Yes.
And now multiplied by the immigrant
Correct.
experience, so.
Correct. That is absolutely true for those in the back. Profiling, right? So who gets stopped and how often and what are the outcomes of those stops? That's a real question that we have to ask here. And who is treated in what ways in our local businesses? I mean, I could tell stories, but we don't have time for that either. Go for it.
I'm just wondering if it's not just that black people leave, but they're pushed out.
Yeah.
So like that's the distinction.
Correct. Why do black people leave, right?
So sometimes they're leaving because they're not feeling right, safe and
Right.
welcome, but then there's, which a part of that though is, you know, maybe the black, police officers might have stayed, right, maybe not, but, you know, maybe, right, if people lose their jobs or and at the school
Absolutely.
district, like, where people are.
Right. It is a hostile environment. People aren't like, black people don't leave New Paltz because Virginia Beach is calling us up, going like, you know where you need to be, that's not happening. So people are leaving because something is making them not want to be here.
Yeah, and that sentiment that happened last week was, also specific about, and just to add to the conversation, that those of us who grew up here, graduated from here, that the black people who grew up here and graduated here, and when they leave, they don't want to come back. A lot of the white people come back because we think and remember of it and our experiences differently.
Right.
But also, just to name it, that the beauty of like Essie Lewis decided to come back and Albert Cook came back, and some black people have come back, and how incredibly valuable and important and vital, and as a community and as the white people of this community, to understand the value of them as our community members, that they're defying the odds, they're defying the discomfort, and they're embodying a level of bravery that we may never be asked to embody, but we need to honor in them.
They're educating us.
Yeah, and leading us, and I'm not sure how else to describe it, but I just feel like it's a really important thing to not lose.
It is. You're right. Thank you. It's and it is very hard to describe because there's so much to describe in it, right? And some of what is laudable is also problematic, right? They are teaching us. Why on earth is it Essie's job and Albert's job to always teach us, right? Like, they have jobs, they have lives, they have other things to do, right? So, like, it is both wonderful and problematic. So, and it is wonderful and problematic that they came back, and it's just problematic that we're just now kind of getting around to understanding that it's problematic for them to come back, right? So let's, I'm trying to be honest about time. Let's move on to what some of the ramifications are, right? We're not going to be comprehensive tonight. That's not possible. So what do these experiences, these statements of the problem of racism in New Paltz lead to? And we've started to cover that a little bit already, right? So what does that look like in our schools? Let's go ahead and have that conversation.
I mean, like, I don't know how appropriate it to go into, like, details, but a teacher has recently been removed from her position and thankfully retained as an employee, but because she chose to, educate her students on age-appropriate gender issues, and because she is a person of color, she was more vulnerable to being targeted by parents that had conflict with, like, their children being exposed to that. And I am concerned about the support that she received from the administration, and what that like removing Black educators and making New Paltz a hostile environment for Black people enforces the soup of white supremacy that, like, the sleep that we're, like, living under, that we don't have a chance to wake up from.
Correct.
That we don't have a chance to be aware of, that we don't have a chance to do the work on.
Yeah, that also wasn't her first experience in the district.
Not even
close.
Not even close, right? So
there's numerous.
Yeah, yeah. So again, for the folks in the back, we have a teacher of color who taught age-appropriate gender education to her students. A parent took umbrage with that, and this teacher has been treated in all manner of ways that are pretty clearly also racially targeted, right? So,
It's a target.
right, and so, you know, again, that intersectionality, right? So, and she's not the only educator here to have that experience, right? So, how do we retain teachers of color when we're talking about, you know, the ramifications of racism for our students, for our children? We can't keep educators of color because their lives are made miserable at work and beyond.
Yeah, and we just like churn out more oblivious white people in that situation.
Yes, yes. I'm going to paraphrase you and say we've created an oblivious white people factory. Ew, right? I mean, our educational system is a conveyor belt, right? Like it's based upon a factory model. So the metaphor is uncomfortably true. You know, we had a black superintendent for a minute and a half, right? And she checked a lot of boxes. Right? She checked a lot of boxes. She was brought in to clean up
White mess.
white mess. That's why she was brought here. And then COVID happened, and nobody had any cultural competency in how that conversation happened, right? Because her communication style is inevitably very different, right? So nobody's communicating well, and she's pushed out in, you know, minutes and in a terrible, terrible way. We'll never know if she was actually a good administrator. We don't know. I think she was too. Please don't misunderstand me, right? My point is that
She didn't get a chance.
she didn't get a chance, right? So we don't, like, our data set is skewed because we couldn't get out of our own way or even see that we were the obstacle. Also, never ask people of color to clean up white messes. It's just a terrible plan, right? It's a terrible plan. Clean up and then, but that's for down the road. That's a later conversation. We're not ready for that one yet.
Gotta have support within the system.
You have to have support within the system.
Yeah.
No support. What happens to our students of color?
I'll just say from experience of growing up here white, we had a great guidance counselor when I was in high school, Stacy Sands. I'm not a black student. She did great by me. I wasn't in her office all the time, but she knew who I was. She knew my likes. She knew what I was disinterested in. She knew my strengths as a student. She knew my weaknesses, and she guided me through that process in a way that I was a high school student. I wasn't happy all the time, but she tried to make it so that I had an enjoyable experience. But apparently she wasn't doing her job. She was only catering to the black students. And as the youngest in the department, and the only black woman in the department, not long after I left, she was right. So, so you're having students of color watching that happen to the adult, maybe the one or the two adult, because let's be real, Paltz High School. Right.
Are you talking about the black social worker?
Yes.
We were very involved, you know, with that case there.
So,
She dealt with a lot of the white students too.
of course, that's what we were just saying. That's exactly what we were saying. So,
But they're watching their support system be pushed out.
right, and also, even if she was focused on the black students, there's a reason for that, right? That's not.
Limina, I just have to give this information to the group, because I sat in the federal courthouse during the trial between the school district and this guidance counselor. And the reason that she was supposedly not tenured and thus fired was because they claimed that this other guidance counselor had done all her work and she wasn't doing her work. And this other guidance counselor, who was very, very ill at the time, Michael Sussman, who was the lawyer, his partner picked her up and brought her up to Albany to testify in federal court. And what the guidance counselor said was that not only did she not do Stacy's work because she was so sick? That Stacy did her work.
Yes.
Okay, and so we all know how this trial ended, and again, one of our tax dollars goes to pay off.
Maureen, we don't, Alex, for instance, I don't know how it ended. Can you share how it ended?
Well, the district lost, okay? And a sum of money was paid to this young woman whose career, there is a happy ending years down the line, I can tell you. But at that time, she was working at Gap for $9 an hour. She was an excellent guidance counselor. And she did get hired by the Poughkeepsie School District as she went back to school for special ed. But her passion was to be a guidance counselor. But I can tell you that that did happen, okay, for many years. So the ending is very happy. But I think that it's important that people understand what, what's going on.
Right.
And I wanted to explain that, to you, that I'm so happy that you thought you were meaningful. Many people did. Why don't it didn't matter?
What I would add to that, because I was there also in court, the woman who came to testify, she was dying of cancer, and she really was, there was a really big deal that they drove her up to Albany. She essentially said that they hired her because she was black, and they fired her because she was black. And that was a very upfront thing, because she had had that dialogue with the guidance counselor when she was being hired. She literally said, they're gonna offer you the job, you know this is a racist school district. So, this woman was very much supportive of Stacy, was very upfront about it.
Sure.
But it was so clear. And what happened in the court, which was significant, is that when people were testifying on behalf of the guidance counselor, that was day one. Came back for day two, the judge did not even want to hear what the school district had to say. She literally said, I'm done, and ruled against the school district because it was so blatant. It was so massive.
Thank you. We might want to actually just parenthetically, as we're talking about solutions, which we're not yet, think about creating essentially a local story corps specifically for these stories, right? I'm not sure what that would look like, but I'm just gonna stick that up on the wall and leave it there for now, and we'll pull it down when we're ready. Diana and
I was just gonna say, just because I didn't know that story. I wasn't living in New Paltz at that time. But I would say that it might seem like a happy ending, but it sounds completely traumatizing.
Yeah.
And she is probably going to bring that experience with her for the rest of her life.
Correct.
And everybody else and all the students that also felt it from, maybe not in the same directness, but I am sure that all of those students also are living with some type of inner trauma, even if they're not conscious of it.
True. So we're gonna go Linda, then Amanda, and then we're gonna move on because we have more ground to cover.
So this is just another example from the school district. When that superintendent of color arrived, one of the things that she asked to see were the DASA records, the disciplinary records. And that law, said the school districts must keep those records. It's a couple of decades old. There were no records. Now, one of the reasons that those records were supposed to be kept was to look at issues of racism in the disciplinary process. There were no records. The fact that the district just didn't even try.
DASA, I'm fairly certain was like a direct, has historically here in New Paltz been a letter opening to the void, because multiple community action groups, a school board committee that there's multiple members of here in the room tonight, myself included, we all asked for and advocated for these things, right? And we were talking to ourselves. That would have actually been more fun because we were a really good bunch of people. So that actually, we should have just had a party. We would have gotten exactly as much done, but we'd have felt better. Yeah, it's a long, complicated, deep history of not just targeting individual teachers, students, but it is a decision by our school board historically and our administrators historically to participate actively in systemic racism in our schools. I'm going to go to Amanda, and then because Kristen was on the committee, and then we are going to move on.
So I'm just gonna say that by doing this, you're removing the role models and you're giving the students a very harsh model of, I mean, you're reinforcing that instead of showing them in
Correct.
another way.
Correct. And at some point, right, when you have multiple experts explaining that fact to you, it can no longer be perceived as implicit bias, like accidental racism. It's a decision, right? It's a decision. This is how we want to be, because we know how we've been told, literally told, how to choose to be otherwise, right? But no, we don't want to do that. Kristen, did you want to say something quickly before we?
I just wanted to say, as someone who sat on that committee for a long time with the most dedicated people trying to wrap our minds around why things were happening and not happening in New Paltz around race, and feeling often like a bunch of kittens being given balls of string even amongst ourselves, that, you know, we were an advisory group. We were an advisory group, but it was like nobody took our advice.
Correct.
But the best thing about it was we had students on the committee. And even though we couldn't always affect the big changes we wanted, we were ears for those students, and those students felt heard, and their friends. And what makes me saddest about that advisory committee is that it no longer has students. It didn't even exist.
It is something very different.
Something
So
different.
can we, I just checked the time, we're at 8 o'clock. Can we move on to policing? Because that sounds like fun, right? Let's move on to policing. So we've already said some of this, but just to recap, we have fewer officers of color now than we did 3 years ago. We've had no police commission problems with the police commission. We've had a very problematic history of how we manage policing in New Paltz. And again, we had an EO 203 committee, Governor's Executive Order 203, Governor Cuomo, insisted that every community take a look at the racialization of their policing and come up with new ways to be. I was on that committee. I'm so proud of that work. Essie and I were on that committee together with Albert and Diana. My God, where did her last name go? Right out of my head.
Armstead?
Armstead, thank you. Gone. Horrible. I'm sorry, Diana.
Diana's here.
Diana's here? Diana's here! I'm sorry, Diana. There you go. Most of the community's here. We were picked because we were people of color. We tried to clarify, do you really mean this or not? The answer was yes, until it means something. There is a playbook. Right, there's a playbook. I'm so proud of the work that we did together, and I genuinely believe that if every police department in the state of New York took that EO 203 and adopted it, New York would be a different place in a year.
Yep.
A vastly different, better place in a year. It's on the town website. You can go look at it. Right?
Please do.
So there's that.
It's brilliant.
So what happened? Right? What happened, what still could happen is really probably the most helpful way to frame that question. I know that we have officers up, down. We have safety officers who will readily say, I'm pretty sure they've said it on the record, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to say it, that racism is no longer a thing. That's the culture of our police department, from their own mouths, in my hearing. So that's not secondhand, I've heard that. I've heard it seconded and thirded. We had officers of color, we do not have officers of color. Right?
Exit interviews?
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, totally.
Is that since the leadership changed in the police department?
Right? So that's my encapsulation of some things that are ramifications of racism in New Paltz that are impacting our policing, right? So pretty sure my daughter has fallen victim to the sea change. My A student. Yeah. This is the reality. Are there other things we need to say about the ramifications of racism in regards to policing? There's probably like a year and a half's worth, right? So like, but.
So did the, what happened to the black policemen? Did they get fired? What did
I think they were raptured.
But because they said black people leave New Paltz. So
Black
did
people
they leave New Paltz for, I don't know.
We
if
don't
they got fired or-
I don't have an exit interview. I can't tell you why they left. I can tell you they were here and they're not here. And that there's a pattern. And that there are words being spoken that would certainly make me feel not welcome, seen, valued, or even safe in uniform in the department, right? So like, I don't know. Kitty.
One officer left who worked at the Kingston Police Department, one is with the Ulster County Sheriff's Department, and one is a lovely young man who took the training, served for a couple of months and said, I'm not cut out to be a police officer, and went to work for his father. The question is, why did the two leave the New Paltz Police Department and go work with other police departments?
Correct.
And that's something that we need to talk about.
Correct.
Say that again.
Yeah, so everybody can hear. 3 officers of color, one went to Kingston, one is working in the sheriff's department, and one was like, I'm not a cop, and went to work with his dad. But we don't know why the 2 who left, right, we don't know why they left, but it's an excellent question to ask.
And we don't know how they were treated in the department. There was a time about a decade ago where there was a white supremacist that was actually making signals in his pictures. I don't know if anybody remembers pictures of the department. And we're like trying to call a guy out, and it's like, well, no, we don't see this.
Right. So
we don't know how they were treated.
We can only guess based upon the evidence that is surrounding us. I see a hand in the back.
I know the time is coming, close to the end of the meeting, so I just want to say, in a summary way, after spending, almost 40 years struggling with racism in the school district and with the police, in this district specifically, the only thing that made any change is when you have an organized group that is really progressive and being very assertive, staying on top of the issue, and putting constant pressure on the institutions.
Absolutely.
And as soon as you stop doing that, they go right back because the core issue of racism never changes. And that's what we saw happening in every situation that has been mentioned here. And having worked on this for so many decades, I've got a whole list of those situations that I was personally involved with, including my daughter, who will not come back to New Paltz for all the reasons that we talked about. And that is the issue, that if you don't have a community that is organized and progressive and really working on changing the structure of power,
which is hopefully what we're pivoting to in a meaningful way here tonight, right? Is how do we become that community rather than what we have been and have done very well, is have strong pockets of that energy in this community, right? We absolutely, positively have had and do have that, right? But now the goal, as I perceive it, is to suffuse the entire community with that energy, which feels to me like a really good moment to pivot to where we go from here. Do you want to?
Where we go from here? Go ahead. So I follow and so I make that bridge?
Go for it.
All right, cool. Where do we go from here? Well, as you walk through the world, you know what I always say, see something, say something.
Yep.
Everybody's here you guys are active members of the community, not passive. That's fabulous. One thing I noticed though, we old.
Thanks, Sam.
How do we get this younger generation involved? On campus, we have this event. This is our 5th annual one. Sound Your Truth. There's going to be a lot of youthful energy over there this coming Thursday. If you can come through and support them.
Yes.
Try to get them in that organization here or there. You might be able to pick off one or two, but it's really not just about that. All right? But create community in some innovative ways, right? See something, say something. Silence changes the world, just like saying something changes the world. Don't be silent. All right. At the end of the day, as we attempt to build these bridges, everybody is very active, and when you see issues and problems in the world, you speak up. And I just wanted to pivot. Just give me 20 seconds. I spoke up. Our philosophy department does not teach black philosophy or African American or African philosophy. Neither does the psychology department does not either. I spoke up to both those departments just this semester and said I'm going to do a reading group and I want y'all support. Philosophy was because I have great relationships with everybody. Philosophy said, okay, Anthony, it's cool. Psychology, one of the biggest departments on the planet, on the campus, said, Anthony, we don't know really what that's about. Why don't you come talk to us? I said, Google. This is like, what you mean? It's a bit, I can't get into it now. I ain't got time for it, but there's been a huge movement in psychology moving towards this. Y'all one of the biggest departments on the campus and you don't know. Wow. What you mean you don't know? Yeah. All right. So then I made a pivot. Next semester, I'm going to be teaching a class on African philosophy and black psychology. And I'm only teaching it because they not.
Okay. I'd just like to point out, Anthony also has a job. He already has a job.
Work creep.
He's already got a job. He's got a full. Okay. Anyway.
We all have.
All right. So just as we move to where are we going to go from here? What are we going to do? I just want to kind of sum up and crystallize, right? Because we've shared really good and important anecdotal information, right? But I just want to kind of bullet point this for us. So our children are learning less at a time when it's crucial that they understand the politics and impacts of inequality and inequity most. Our police are not equipped with training or cultural sensitivity to be agents of safety or peace for our community, right? You can't be a safety officer if you don't understand what safety looks like for your community. Our leadership is not clear or united in understanding the magnitude of the problem, and so continues to often deny and make the problem worse. People of color continue to leave New Paltz. Representational leadership steps down for self-preservation. And we drift further and further from being a community that is in alignment with our own sense of self, right? We perceive ourselves as this progressive, liberal, inclusive place. But because we're not dealing with this, we're actually becoming actively less progressive, liberal, right? So like we're creating this massive cognitive dissonance amongst ourselves. And you know, right now is a time when moral leadership.
Okay.
We could use a little more moral leadership, and that, you know, that's not just top down, right? That's bottom up. So if we want to actually be the community that we say we want to be and that we are, this is how we start, because this is bedrock of what it means to be an American, right?
Yes.
You can't fix a house if the foundations are cracked and you're just letting them be that way. You can put up all the plaster you want, you can put gold in the Oval Office, right? But it won't, the house still won't stand up that way. So there's the urgency. So we're not gonna wave an anti-racist wand, right? If anybody has one, please let me know. I very much want the anti-racist wand.
Time to break glass.
Right? Ding, I want that one. But we don't have that wand. So, what are
other tools?
Well, right. So now it's time to put together our toolkit. All right? And this is we're not done. This is where we're starting. So what are some steps that you think we as community, which means leadership, but it also means diffuse, what are some steps that we can do, having named the problem and the ramifications, that would make us a less racist community?
We need to raise consciousness and awareness by doing training.
Training.
I'm sorry to say, I don't know the answer to this, and I know it's a hot button issue, but have all of our elected officials taken anti-racism training?
It's funny you should mention that, because Essie Lewis and I wrote one.
Right, okay, well that's.
We wrote a training. I passed it at the ledge that it had to be offered to all countywide elected officials. We could not make it mandatory. I tried really hard.
Wow.
That was a non-starter, but it had to be offered. That was also
take it up.
some did not.
Can you some idea how many, like percentage wise? I'm just curious.
Over the 2 sessions, I think 12 in total. I think.
12 legislators?
No, 12 people.
Oh.
Some of whom were elected, some of whom were not. Some just wanted to take it, who were not elected. But no, there was very little response to that. But it is written, it is there, it apparently does not actually exist. Training that is specifically about racism in policy setting. It should be. There's a class. I'll come teach that. You can pay me. There you go. I'll do that job.
Pay her.
There we go. That's another conversation. So training, community-wide training, elected official training, police training, education training.
I want to piggyback off of training. I've seen a lot of you at these kind of trainings, at the Margaret Lewis Center events. It's great that you're there. We can't just have the same people in the room every single time.
Okay, every single time.
And it's not to discredit that you are here. It's not to be like, you're always here. It's great. It's great. So next time one of these rolls around, invite your neighbor. Bring one person who isn't already coming. If you ask a person, they say, I already know about it. I'm going to be there. You're not off the hook. They're already coming. Find one other person. And this doesn't have to just be for training. Say, I'm going to Kwanzaa in December. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Margaret Lewis Center hosts Kwanzaa every December.
Tomorrow
So-
is the birthday of the Ann
Yes.
Oliver House.
There's the birthday of the Ann Oliver House. 140 years that house has stood.
2 to 4?
So bring
12 to 2.
someone new to that event. My second thing on the trainings is kind of like this meeting. You're not gonna solve it in one meeting. If you host a meeting at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday and they're like, the young people don't care.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why they might not be showing up to a 3 o'clock meeting on a Wednesday.
Okay.
One meeting isn't gonna solve it. One 3 o'clock meeting isn't gonna solve it. A meeting at 3 o'clock and a meeting at 7 o'clock isn't gonna solve it. You have to meet people where they are. There's a lot of issues pressing on people right now.
Yeah.
And
This is
to
a
make
lifestyle
them-
change that
and-
we're really talking
Yes,
about.
and yeah, guilt is not the way to do that.
No.
Some of it is.
Some of it is.
Some of it is.
Occasionally.
But try to meet people where they're at.
Yes. I'm gonna go to Molly and then I'm gonna come to you.
I would just add visibility. So you mentioned the pockets of progressive intention. But where's our parade? Or, I mean, the Margaret Wade Lewis Center is a place for us to kind of be like, if you're a new student coming into town, how do you know that there's a very strong anti-racist presence at New Paltz? Where is that? Where does that exist? So that's one place. But like more ways to make that visible, like a physically, actually visible thing to see.
Yeah. How about a Black History Trail? You know, in Boston, right? You can follow the yellow brick road all around Boston. What if we put a yellow brick road through New Paltz? So somebody here, and then I'm gonna come up to you.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned policy, but there's all kinds of policy, that's one way of making, changing the system.
Right.
With policy, so that it affects a larger number of people. I sat with John Lewis at a table and walked out policy with him, and he taught me about how to look at policy and the structural changes it can make, and we can do that in the town.
Yep, and that's the training that we offered was like a survey of policy history that gets us to where we are now, right? So that, because you can't, if you don't know why a policy is bad, you don't know that you need to change the policy, right? And if you don't, you got to know where it came from to know where you want it to go to, right? So that was the absolute point. I was going here, and then I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to do other things.
I have often canvassed at Meadowbrook and talked about intersectionality.
I mean, we could talk about that. When these do that a different night, this is enough.
You know what I mean. But it's always struck me, there are quite a big percentage of people of color in that community. They're also poor. I don't see them anywhere. We're not in contact, they're hidden. And they don't participate in what goes on in our community. We really need to think about that community and how we can reach out and bring them comfortably into the kinds of things we think are important in being part of a community. They really are a forgotten community, and I've gone several times politically canvassing there, and it always distresses me that I never see anybody in any place I go.
Right.
I want us to pay attention to that
That's
community.
important. And we are a segregated community. You know, you've moved to a very white place, y'all, when you walk down the street and the other person of color you see gives you the nod. Right? Okay, now I know where I am. Thank you. Thank you. I see you too. All right, we're in this together, right? So yes, it is a segregated community. We're not shopping the same places because we can't afford to, because it's also economic, right? It's a very complex thing. But the other thing we have to do, Jackie, is rather than saying like, come be with us,
go to them,
right?
Yeah.
We have to also say, what would you, like, what do you want? Like, what's the block party for Meadowbrook look like?
And can we come?
Right, and can we come, right? Like, so, you know, it's a both and.
Yeah.
And then I was coming here, and then I don't know where.
I know I can go. I'll be quick. This is particularly niche to where the world I inhabit, so you already know that I'm somehow involved with the Margaret Wade Lewis Center. I think you can even get that by now. I also work at the library. I work in the historical collection. We need to teach local history again, because when I was learning history, slavery was a thing that happened far away in the South. And if you teach local history the way it should be taught, you would have learned that slavery is not something that happened far away in the South. And you can teach local history that tells a national story. You can use local documents. You can use documents from my collection. You can use Huguenot Street. You can use the county. New Paltz town records. We just are working on completing a big project to digitize these records and make them available. We can only beg and plead so much that they go into curriculum, that they get used by the college. Guess who gets listened to in a district? Irate parents.
Yep.
So maybe we can't
Don't be loud.
I understand that this is not just Ulster County, not just New York State, but we need people to start advocating for teaching locally to think globally.
And vote that.
Yeah.
Because irate parents can go to the school board, right? But then who do we elect to the school board?
And who's running?
Who's running for school
Please
board?
run for school
I'm
board.
looking at y'all, because you all show up. Who's on the school board, right? So I'm going to go to Kitty, and then I want to try and focus on people who haven't spoken yet.
15 years ago, I led a group of high school students on the 11-mile walk that Sojourner Truth took from West Park, I think it was, up Floyd Eckert Road to Poppendale Road. It's 11 miles. And I think we had about 10 high school students. I would really love to see that become part of the curriculum for high school students. I don't know if we'll ever do the whole 11 miles again, but we had teachers along the way. We had them at different stops to say, exactly what it was she was walking to, not running away from. And I would love to see at least one program in the high school curriculum that really celebrates this remarkable woman.
Well, yes, we do have the Sojourner Truth Walk every year. We do it every year.
When we teach Black history, it shouldn't be that we taught Black history, right? We should teach history, which inevitably includes Black history, because we are here and have been.
I just thought, I was wondering if with the police report, the 203 or whatever it is, like, would it help if a group of either mixed or mostly white people went to the police department and asked questions?
I don't see how that could hurt.
Right, like if there was some way to be like, hey, what happened to that, and whoever the new person is, and
Okay, so when it comes to policing, I am the village liaison to the police commission. I am happy to work with anybody who wants to go with me to police commission meetings, which are currently town board meetings, where they also have police commission meetings, because they're acting as the police commission again. I can tell you some of the history, we can go and talk about it, we can be targeted with the things. There are already people who are working on this. There are at least 2 people who show up to every meeting and ask questions. It can't be just those 2 people. And me, I have asked to be let into executive session for certain things because I am the liaison. Doesn't always happen, but specifically, when they're talking about doing certain things, they're supposed to be overseeing the police chief, and they're supposed to be doing all kinds of things that are laid out in the NPPRRC, the New Paltz Reimagining Reinvention
There were a lot of letters.
It's on New Paltz. Go to townofnewpaltz.org and look at it.
But let me say something, that starts with the administration.
Yes.
The administration can't expect those folks that are, working along with them.
That's correct.
Because if leadership is not doing it.
100%.
That's where it's been for the last 5 years.
Absolutely correct.
So, I'm realizing that we're at 8:24.
I'm there, like,
And so I wanna honor and get us out of here as close to 8:30 as possible. So for the sake of that expedience, I did do some pre-brainstorming.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna share that and maybe we can riff off of that very quickly and then we can figure out literally what are we going to do next? When are we gonna see each other next? What are we going to do? So some ideas that I had were to revisit the recommendations of the EO203 committee and implement them without further delay. Bring the school board, police, and local electeds together to get on the same page. That has been nigh unto impossible for a variety of political reasons. But here's the thing, right? Like, politics don't rule us, we rule politics.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, whatever normally happens does not have to be what happens. Everybody needs to be on the same page if we are going to have community-wide change.
Do you have an idea of how to do that, though?
We have elections, right? If the same people go to the school board as go to the town board as go to the, right, and say, we want you in the same room.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We want you in the same room. We want you in the same room. We want you taking the same training because if we're not using the same words, we're not speaking the same language, right? If we're not speaking the same language, we're not having a conversation.
So can I just, I'm very like action oriented, like, so what do we do? I hear this, it sounds great. So are you saying like you would send out an email to everybody that's on the email list and say there's gonna be this meeting, would you please come and support that issue? Like, how are we gonna actually make that happen?
That is the question, right? So I'm gonna dump a few more and then we're gonna decide who's gonna do what, when we're gonna meet next, what we're gonna do. Incentivize learning, which we've talked about. Offer learning, prioritize learning. So we know we need the learning to happen in the schools, but it doesn't have to only happen in the schools, right? We have a raft of community organizations. We've got the Margaret Wade Lewis Center. We have a university here. We have churches. Some, not all. Some of us are actually equipped to do and passionate about this work, right? Not all. You know, what would it look like if we really did incentivize and we had business leaders who said like, oh, if you show me that you were at this thing, you can have a free yoga class. Right? So what do you have? What do we as a community have that we can actually incentivize participation with? In my experience, people love a cookie. Right?
Slice of pizza?
Right. Apple cider donut. People are there. It'll happen. It's the magic of the pastry. Develop an equity report card for community organizations and the community as a whole. So I would suggest that we might want to work with the Black Studies Department to do that, because you didn't have enough work, Anthony. I'm giving you more, right? But we don't get to create that report card because we don't collectively know enough, right? That's the point. But we have experts. Seek leaders from community organizations to take the lead in learning, and then those learners can be trained. Right. Can become teachers, right? So what does it look like to have, because I'm on yoga, I don't know why, but I am, right? To have a somatic experience in yoga class that is racially and culturally sensitive. What does it look like to take that class even though it's not for you? right? Create a community equity board. Right? We're actually lousy with experts in this work. So what would an equity advisory board for the community look like? And then, how can they kind of navigate those cookies that we're gonna give out? Create an annual equity gala, the proceeds of which would go to the Margaret Wade Lewis Center. At the event, there would be a speaker and awards given for those in the community who've done the greatest work in making our community a more equitable one, because again, people love cookies. Statues are nice too. So those are that's some of my pre-brainstorming work. Do we have anything that we want to add to it? And if not, then we have
Cookies?
2 minutes to figure out what comes next. And by the way, we can do that. You are all empowered to go take initiative, right? We don't have to do all of this as a group. So we should do some of it as a group. I saw tons.
What happened to the one book, one new Paltz, and there were some of books that were chosen?
Still have. No, it's not.
No. Would it be something, because it was like a town gown thing also, and maybe multiple ages, or I don't know if they're
I can get behind that. One book, one new Paltz.
related topics to equity and.
I saw another hand, yeah.
Okay, school, district, village, police, what is the calendar for when those various organizations meet? Is that on newpaltz.org? Where do we find out when and where those are happening so we can show
Right.
up?
So the village has a website, the town has a website, the school district has a website, right?
The legislature has a
The legislature has a website.
I attempted at one point to try to make one calendar. It was like pulling teeth. It was really, really, really hard. People pushed back, and I can show you the email.
But here's an idea. We don't actually need
Let's do it.
them to do it, right?
Let's just do it. Let's make one.
Who has Google Calendar?
Right.
3 of us have Google Calendar.
Let's freaking do it!
This is the least Googly room in the universe, right? We all have Google Calendar, right? We all have Google Calendar. We can delegate somebody, go look at all the websites and put all of the meetings on the community calendar. We don't need to wait for
We need a
permission.
person or 2 people to do that.
Don't wait for permission, y'all. Equity that waits for permission
is
inequity. That's it. So one more hand here, and then I see a hand in the back.
I just pull that storyboard, the StoryCorps idea, that would place to record their experiences. Oh, that's somewhere.
Which is a lot like TMI, and they have
There you go.
expertise.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. I was thinking the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I saw a hand in the back.
Yeah, I would just suggest making this like a volunteer opportunity for students, both in the high school, maybe the middle school, and the college.
Yep.
We have lots of students on campus that would love to be a part of this. So offering that through the Career Resource Center would be a great way to be connected. And this is walking distance.
Absolutely.
So
Make it so, number 1. I see the hand here, and then Bill.
Has Newport ever had a youth advisory board? Since a lot of the problems are inside the schools, letting the youth be on a panel where they tell their issues, almost similar to telling the stories, but letting you know what helps, what changes, what bring them.
I know we have attempted to do that in the past with the youth center, with the village at one point. I'm happy to work on that.
Bill.
I'm gonna pick up on that, what you on these stuff.
Yeah. So we are after time. So do we want to, does anybody have an idea for what we can do next, right? We've got a menu. We could choose from the menu. We could do it like reverse auction style, where I could, be like, who's gonna take implement EO 203? You know, I gotta, right? We could do that. That's awkward though.
Oh, you're funny, that's great.
Also,
Jan.
also it's late, I'm kind of hungry. I don't, like, I'm not actually recommending that approach, but, you know, spitball.
My suggestion, because it's time, it would be great if, these notes could be written up and sent out to
Yes,
people.
we are going to do that.
I think that's the homework, is people should review them and see what they would want to work on.
Yes, yes.
And it needs to be
That will be done.
a working
I will be
meeting,
doing that.
set up the committees or groups or however we want to structure, you know,
Can I,
our work.
My recommendation is to take your notes, take the
Yes.
things that you put
Yes.
in the notes, make a Google form.
Yes,
Send it out to that mailing list that went around. And
Yes.
have people say, you know what, I can't work on every single issue.
Right.
But I'd be interested in learning
Correct.
more about what you're doing for that one.
Correct. We did record this meeting, so you can, you know, you can share it with your friends and neighbors who have an extra hour and a half of their lives to watch a meeting while they're making dinner. Yes, definitely. So perhaps what we can do is we can actually create sign-up sheets for some of these, right? Some of them, it's not, you know, it's not necessarily going to be like totally appropriate. So, but let's make it a living document.
Where'd the sign-up sheet go?
I have committed to a couple of things. I have committed to offering a book study on a book called Stand Your Ground, which really is, it really encapsulates how we got here in terms of our like white supremacist policy and especially in policing. It's written by a theologian. It is not a book that focuses on the religion in that way, right? So I have offered to offer that study again. I believe Essie is agreeable to offering the training that we created to other organizations and entities. It is also, it's very policy driven, right? So it's a training for policymakers, but that doesn't mean that only policymakers would get anything out of it. I agreed to do one more thing. What was the other thing I agreed to?
Hold on.
And who's the author of that book?
Kelly Brown Douglas.
Thank
Yeah, you want that book, Anthony.
All right, all right.
Agricultural development inventory.
Yes, that's the other thing I offered to do. So I am what is known as a qualified administrator for the Intercultural Development Inventory. This is a good way of learning. We can do it as individuals, we can do it as organizations. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Basically, you answer a whole bunch of questions, and then I get a report, and then we sit down and we talk about your report, right? And what, like, why you are where you are on a spectrum, a continuum of cultural understanding, and what then makes sense for you to do next, right? So I can do that for individuals, I can do it for organizations. I cannot volunteer, for several reasons, I cannot just volunteer any of this.
You gotta pay bills too.
I have spent my life giving my work away, and so part of the work of creating equity is ensuring that I have some, right? So I am no longer just going to volunteer my services that are outside of what I am actually hired to do in the places where I'm actually hired. But those are things that I am able to offer if there is interest in them.
I will say.
There's interest and money.
Yeah.
Correct.
I will say that the mayor and I and Jenny did a study of white fragility with Limina a few years ago, and we got a lot. We all individually paid for it, and we got a lot out of it, and it was really, really great. I highly recommend studying with Limina, and that's not just because we're friends. I actually have done it, and have gotten so very much out of it. So I really think we need to take her up on this. I will along with Limina, be putting all of this together. If you give me the list, I will send it out to everybody, and we can do, maybe Margaret, help me do a Google form, because I'm an idiot about Google forms, and we can have people sign up for what they want to do more about, and then we can have, people captain each thing, and do all of that stuff.
And then we can have some sort of a huddle to figure out what our next kind of coming together would look like. I have seen your hand for.
Training, what was the title of the training?
Stand your ground.
Which one? Because
No, the one that UNSC did.
it's what did we end up calling it? Advanced DEI for policymakers, I believe is the name that ended up on it, but we tossed out a few, so I could be not quite right about the name.
So, well, two things. One, there's 2 courses actually that you guys put together, right? At county level, there was 2. I thought the newest one is the one.
Well, so Essie and I have done a lot of work together at this point. So Essie and I, along with Diana and Albert, we did the EO203 report, and that had recommendations in it that did include training and a whole bunch of other things. There's the county level training that we wrote.
Right.
That for policymakers.
Right, for policymakers. There's the book study that I'm offering and the inventory that I did.
So the other thing is the reverse racism workshop that's been held twice now.
The
undoing
racism.
Okay. So that one.
Okay.
That's done by a different.
Yeah, that's.
I'm just saying. Excuse me. That's being held for the 3rd time in December, the 8th through the 10th. We will, of course, finish off all the police officers, but elected officials will have the ability to come for the open seats.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. If we could strongly encourage our school district, our board to do the same thing so that we are speaking the same language as a community, that feels like it would be pretty helpful to me.
So that was Undoing Racism, which is happening in December, that the town and police are doing, and that other elected officials are going to join, and depending on how many people sign up, it will be opened up to more and more till the seats are filled. That is happening in December 8th to the 10th.
8th to the 10th.
There is the Stand Your Ground study that Limina might do. There is the intercultural development inventory that Limina can do for individuals and or groups. There is the equity for primarily policymakers. And then there's the EO203 policing. Okay, so those are 5 things.
And you can all sign up for Anthony's class. All right, friends, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like an hour and a half for this sort of work is about what spongy brains do. Until we meet again.